The call came in at 2:17 a.m., the kind of hour when the world feels quiet, fragile, and unforgiving. Paramedic Jake Miller had been on shift for nearly 11 hours, his body running on coffee and muscle memory. The dispatcher's voice was calm but urgent. Unresponsive male, possible cardiac arrest. Residential address, east side of town. Jake exhaled slowly, already pulling on his gloves as the ambulance surged forward, lights slicing through the darkness. He didn't know it yet, but this call would follow him for the rest of his life. The house was small, the porch light flickering like it might give up any second. A woman stood outside barefoot in the cold, arms wrapped around herself, eyes wild with fear. "Please," she cried as soon as she saw the ambulance. "Please help him." Jake nodded, steady and reassuring, the way he'd learned to be after years on the job. Inside, the air smelled of old coffee and panic. A man in his early 40s lay on the living room floor, his teenage son kneeling beside him, hands shaking, trying to remember what 911 had told him about CPR. Jake and his partner took over instantly. Compressions, oxygen, defibrillator. Time blurred into sharp commands and practiced movements. The boy backed into a corner, tears silently streaming down his face. The woman, Sarah, stood frozen, whispering her husband's name over and over like a prayer. After what felt like forever, Jake felt it. A faint pulse, stubborn but alive. "We've got him," he said, his voice firm. "We've got him." They loaded the man into the ambulance and sped toward the hospital. Sarah rode up front, gripping the seatbelt, staring straight ahead. Jake stayed focused, monitoring vitals, adjusting equipment, doing everything he could to keep the fragile line between life and death intact. When they finally arrived, the ER team took over, rushing the man through swinging doors. Just like that, the call was technically over. But Jake didn't leave. He saw Sarah standing alone in the hallway, her hands trembling, her face drained of color. He saw the boy, Michael, sitting in a plastic chair, hoodie pulled over his head, staring at the floor like it might swallow him whole. Jake hesitated. Protocol said he should return to service. There were always more calls, always more emergencies. But something inside him wouldn't let him walk away. He approached slowly. "Hey," he said softly. "Your husband's in good hands now. The doctors are doing everything they can." Sarah looked up, eyes filling again. "Is he going to die?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Jake didn't lie. He never did. "I don't know yet," he said. "But he's alive because of you calling when you did. That matters." Minutes turned into an hour. Jake sat with them, answering what he could, listening more than speaking. Michael finally broke down, sobbing into his hands. "I thought I killed him," he choked. "I didn't push hard enough." Jake knelt in front of him. "You saved him," he said firmly. "You did exactly what you were supposed to do. Don't ever forget that." Something shifted in the boy's eyes. Not relief, but the first crack in the wall of guilt crushing his chest. Jake eventually returned to his ambulance, but he couldn't shake the family from his mind. When his shift ended at sunrise, instead of going home, he stopped by a grocery store. He didn't know why at first. He just filled a cart. Milk, bread, soup, cereal, fruit, snacks a teenage boy might like. Then he drove back to the hospital. Sarah was still there, exhausted, eyes red, shoulders slumped. "You didn't have to do this," she said when she saw the bags. Jake shrugged, a little embarrassed. "I wanted to," he replied. "You're probably not thinking about groceries right now." She laughed weakly, the first hint of a smile since the nightmare began. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Over the next few days, Jake checked in. A text here. A quick stop by the hospital. When Sarah's husband Tom stabilized, relief washed over the family, but it was quickly replaced by another fear. Tom was the primary breadwinner. A long recovery meant missed work, medical bills, uncertainty. Sarah confessed one afternoon, voice shaking. "I don't know how we're going to get through this." Jake listened, and then he acted. He shared the story, anonymously at first, with a few coworkers, then with a local community group. A meal train started. Gift cards arrived. Someone covered a month of rent. Michael's school counselor reached out with support. When Sarah asked how all this happened, Jake just said, "People care more than you think." One evening, Jake stopped by the house to drop off dinner. Tom was home now, thinner, weaker but alive. He struggled to stand when he saw Jake. "You saved my life," Tom said, his voice thick with emotion. Jake shook his head. "You've got a strong family," he replied. "That's what saved you." But the moment that melted hearts came later, quietly without cameras or applause. Jake noticed Michael sitting alone on the porch, staring at the street. He joined him, handing him a soda. After a long silence, Michael spoke. "I still hear it," he said. "The way my dad looked. The sound of my mom screaming." Jake nodded. "That doesn't just go away," he said. "But it gets lighter when you don't carry it alone." Weeks later, Michael asked if he could visit the ambulance station. Jake arranged it. He showed the boy the equipment, explained how everything worked, let him sit in the driver's seat. Michael's eyes lit up with curiosity instead of fear. "Do you ever get scared?" he asked. Jake smiled softly. "All the time," he said. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you show up anyway." Months passed. Tom recovered slowly. Life didn't magically become easy, but it became possible again. One afternoon, Jake received a letter at the station. Inside was a handwritten note from Sarah, thanking him not just for saving her husband, but for staying, for seeing them as people, not a call number. At the bottom, Michael had added his own message. "I want to be a paramedic someday." Jake sat there for a long time staring at those words.